Today, I will discuss my next modality in change work, which is called the meta pattern. And the meta pattern is basically has its foundations in hypnosis, but it's basically the underlying premise of any behavior itself and the mechanism of behavioral change itself. So the grand thesis in this model of this modality is that whatever you do, it involves a neuron inside your brain. Whatever you think, it involves neurons inside of your brain. And now we use that to our advantage. So, suppose again, I want to quit smoking, right? And based on my experience with smoking, when do I crave smoking the most when I'm trying to quit? It's after Korean barbecue. Something about that already smoky scent and the lingering taste of kind of greasy, like buttery beef in your mouth really makes me want to crave cigarettes, especially double or triple that, especially if I'm drinking, right? And so that's the trigger, and that causes me to associate it with cigarettes. And so, in terms of the brain, the synaptic connection between the neurons that have to do with Korean barbecue and the neurons that have to do with cigarette smoking are very close to each other, and they're very tightly interconnected with each other. So the premise of the meta pattern is you start entering your brain and you start decoupling these neurons. You start decoupling, you start to sort of shake them loose. And then you distance it, and now you can have all the Korean barbecue in the world, and it won't evoke this because they're sufficiently far away. And so the steps of the meta pattern is that number one, you associate into the problem state. Ah, Korean barbecue, and I really want to smoke. So you're associating, and you're in here, right? You're basically these neurons are actively firing. And then step two is dissociating from this state, which is I have three techniques that I use for dissociation personally. Any one of those is fine. And then whoop, dissociation, so your brain is sort of like out of this joint. Like it still is connected, but you look at it from a detached perspective. Step three is you're thinking about the resourceful state, which is my intended state. Okay, so instead of craving cigarettes, how do I want to feel? I want to feel really happy, and I want to feel really satisfied because I've had a wonderful meal. And I'm probably eating Korean barbecue with some people I love very much. So I want to feel grateful. And I want to feel grateful that I'm enjoying this experience and it's very happy for me. Okay. And now we start thinking of, we start just basically, that this is step four. You're associating the desired state with the original trigger. So now you think of Korean barbecue and you think of gratefulness. And now you removed one connection. You removed one synaptic connection between Korean barbecue and smoking. And now smoking has one less of a connection. And the more times you repeat this, the more the pattern, the more the synapses around smoking become isolated. And now there comes a point where this just becomes obsolete because there's nothing triggering it. And so sometimes you will think of smoking, but it's not gonna be as strong because nothing is really deeply connected to it. So this is the underlying model of how meta patterning works. And the pro of meta pattern is that once you understand this, you can really apply anything. You don't need to use the specific techniques in the videos in my channel. As long as you understand the framework, you can do this with anything. And the dissociation techniques are very effective. And it kind of has to be, right? Because when you're fixated on something, like, and you're thinking about something, you have a tendency to be still because all the resources are going to that brain synapse. So the dissociation techniques usually involve movement. Usually involve movement that involves both hemispheres. Usually involves like kinesthetic like components, auditory components, and visual components. So it's basically overloading the brain with all the different parts of the brain so that it can't connect to that resource, right? I mean, it can't connect to that state. Like I can't stay focused on wanting to smoke. And so that just by itself is enough to be very valuable to people, especially if you are undergoing a lot of trauma, if you're undergoing a lot of stress and a lot of pressure. These dissociation techniques can be very good and very effective at just like popping out. Of course, when you don't do step and three, it's gonna come back because you've done nothing to the source problem. You just dissociated, right? So it's like you're having a bad call, and then your friend comes to you with the birthday cake. Oh, yay, happy birthday, cool. And then you still have to take the bad phone call, right? So the complete picture of the meta pattern is actually making this phone call a pleasant one, and or removing the phone from your hand or whatever, something like that. Um, the con of meta pattern is again because this is kind of a you're trying to remove all the connections to that undesired behavior, right? So the process can get a little repetitive, especially because this pattern can be reinforced by so many different triggers. So if you're trying to like if you're trying to install a new habit, you can use step 4 of the meta pattern. If you're trying to remove a habit that has been part of your life for not a very long time, Metapattern can actually change that in an instant. It's that effective. But now, it'll still work on problems that are more deeply ingrained, but it just takes more tries. And what is our human brain going to do when we have a lot of tries? We're going to get bored of it. We're going to get sick of it. We're going to try to want something new. So sticking with the meta pattern, as with other modalities, can be a challenge. But I can attest for its effectiveness because I had eczema. I had really bad eczema, but it's gone because I did a lot. I did like 8, 9 rounds of meta patterning, and this is a purely physical problem with my skin. And I actually chronicled it in my earlier videos. But now eczema free. Isn't that's sort of crazy? I just removed all of the crazy brain synapses that made my eczema worse. And so this is why I do a lot of meta patterning, especially for my chronic pain or chronic condition clients. Um, which I am taking just one more at the moment. So if you are suffering from chronic conditions or chronic pain, I have one spot for my pro bono coaching. I always try to make room for one at least one free coaching client. So if you have a chronic condition and you want to try something at it, it's not gonna cost you a thing. Email me at billy@julylifecoach.com. We'll start talking. All right, I'll see you in the next modality, which is unshaming.